All right. Is networking and context important for a new tech founder, or should main focus be on product and customers? I would go with product and customers. Don't go to parties all day. I don't think you're going to do well with that. I do think you should have a couple road dogs that you're really close with, some other founders, compare notes. I mean, I tell everybody here at this office, I said, listen, you got a boyfriend, girlfriend? If they say yes, I said, no, you don't. I'm your new boyfriend. You're breaking up with them. You're in a relationship with me now. You mean you really making tens of millions of dollars, which is like a near certainty when you work with me? You're really putting that behind some like relationship? Come on, bro. Nah, we ain't doing that. If anything, they should understand you getting this bread. Because I guarantee you they spending it. Guarantee you they spending it. No, I don't love you for the money, no. And then when you got the money, they're like, yeah, I really do want that new 𝗪𝗡𝗡𝗧𝗏 bag. Yeah, that would be nice. Sally's got an 𝗪𝗡𝗡𝗧𝗏 bag. I want one too. Man.
Accounts payable here, I'll give you a quick lesson since you asked. This 6.2 million, you can tell because it says up here in thousands. So you have to multiply this by 1,000. So that's $6,194,000 accounts payable. These are services that have been given to you for which you owe money. So if you have an AWS bill, that's outstanding, that would be here. Accrued expenses are kind of the same thing, but an accounting version. So that's $5.397 million, or $5.4 million. And this is something where your accountants have accrued it. They've sort of estimated the expense and are going to expense it, or it's money you have to pay. Deferred revenue is product you have not shipped yet, but you have received revenue for. Long-term debt is what it sounds like. That is real debt. That is money I borrowed. I got to pay it back with interest. Leases are a little bit different. Lease accounting has gotten a little crazy. In general, you can avoid thinking of these as debt, but you would investigate them if they're large numbers. And then there's debt. So here the company has just got 1.4-ish million in debt. And, about to have $5 billion in cash, so a little bizarre.
It's okay to work for somebody else because one, there's always a team at the end of the day. Zuckerberg, when you work at Facebook, you don't work for Zuckerberg, you work with Zuckerberg. You guys are thinking too small-minded. Kamal made a bill working for Zuck. These people are worth more than most founders. So don't get it twisted. You can do well working for somebody else. Have you tried Lean? Absolutely, the mathematical programming language. Of course. I use Lean once a week, maybe. Best method to improve productivity? I would say Red Bull. You have to really want it, right? You have to, in your heart of hearts, believe you're going to do it and you're going to win and you're going to focus and that the path that you're taking is going to be successful. If you don't have that kind of approach, if you really aren't sure if your path or what you're doing is going to be successful, doubt will creep in. That doubt will kill you. And you'll begin to do other things with your time instead of focus and be productive. You know what's going to make you successful. You oftentimes are just scared of it. We know if you read that linear algebra textbook that you can get an AI job that makes you $500,000 a year. Every employee at OpenAI who's been there, excluding maybe the last year, is worth like 50 to 100 million or more. Every single person there, just to work there, you're worth 100 mil. Think about that. What do they do that you can't do? I think so much of success is about believing in yourself and charting a map. Nobody's successful overnight, but you chart a course like Magellan. You chart a course for the future and you say, this is what my next 5 years is going to look like. If I stay on this course, I'm going to meet all my goals. But it's easier said than done. It's much easier said than done. You have to believe that your course will get you there. If your course is to land on the moon or something, some crazy thing that's not going to happen, you're not going to believe it and you're not going to do it. You can't say my goal is to be a billionaire in 2 years. Now maybe I could do that, but that's another story.
Goodwill. You might want to take an accounting class, but basically Goodwill is an accounting technique that is GAAP. It's generally accepted accounting principles, so you have to do it. You need to use GAAP if you want to beat the rap. So when you buy an asset in excess of book value, the accounting system doesn't have a great way to do that. So you debit cash and credit goodwill. Or the old way to do it would be, or another way to do it would be if you debit cash and debit shareholders' equity. But theoretically, if you were willing to buy a company for more than book value, there is a mechanism by which you can reflect why you did that. You know, you didn't set the money on fire for fun, you did it because you wanted to create some kind of benefit for your company.
I like this. Is your project open source? Listen. First of all, we don't call our products projects. Do you think this is a science project? Sophisticated products. What do you think this is? Richard Stallman charity? Who do you think this is? Terry Davis? No, in all seriousness, I mean, there's a place for open source. And we would open source the right tool. But it has to sort of make sense. And so far, I don't think there's a perfect fit for that yet that we've seen. We're a young company. You know, let's get our feet planted before we start worrying about others. Let's take care of our own house, and then we'll open source all day. But you need a little success before you can do too much open source, in my opinion. For stocks that you're not comfortable with or you're confused about, you know what the great thing about those stocks is? You don't have to make a pick. You can ignore them. You know, you could basically say, I don't know. It might keep growing. It might just not. Who cares? Right? You don't have to sit there and be the hero that figures it out. That's what Warren Buffett kind of taught the world. Like, I'm not sure what's going to happen, to be honest. I know what might have happened if it was a pharma stock, but I'm not sure what's going to happen. And it's okay to admit that. This isn't a contest, you know? Find a stock where you don't know, where you do know what's going to happen. I could see this keep growing at 50%. I could see it, maybe not. But on balance, at first blush, it looks fairly attractive. But I just don't know the details. The details are really important. Investing is not about broad strokes. It's you know, details are really important. And I have a friend who's an expert in these stocks. I'll certainly ask him, but you still have to make up your own mind.
I think it's less important what you're trying to study and more important your attitude. Andrew Tate is right about that, at least. He gives people a little bit of that winning attitude. And part of watching me isn't just about learning how to look at companies. It's also about a work ethic, an attitude, a framework for life, a little like Jordan Peterson, that revolves around a couple of key principles. We actually had a name for this, which I won't share, because that's like secret level 35. But it basically translates loosely into leave no stone unturned. And that's kind of like my research philosophy. It's very difficult to employ. Most people want the lazy way out. They just want the answer in 5 minutes. They don't want to sit and do the hardcore work. I don't know if work ethic is genetic. I think you can psych yourself into it and psych yourself out of it. I think it's very much a psyop. You have to psyop yourself. Most people are not born to be leaders and to be really successful. It's just that nature of the beast. If you want to be that, you're going to have to be different. You're going to have to zig when others zag. You're going to have to do things really that look strange to your friends. When I was in high school, I used to read the Wall Street Journal. None of my friends read the Wall Street Journal. They didn't understand what that was. I used to talk about stocks nonstop. Nobody wanted to talk about stocks. You've got to be different. Really different. Whether that's programming or whatever vocation it is. And it's not about doing it from a young age. It's about a mental framework where you're constantly adding to your knowledge base over time, and you're seeking that knowledge out, and you're trying to achieve perfection over long periods of time. A lot of it is about a long-term philosophy, but it's also about a thorough philosophy. And all of these things matter way more than did I learn data science or did I learn XYZ. Those things matter a little bit. You know, it's kind of like the saying, you want to be in the right zip code or the right neighborhood, but you also want to have the right house in the right neighborhood.
So maybe everyone's sitting there saying, well, what's the right neighborhood? Should I be in hedge funds? Should I be in AI? Should I be in data science? Should I be in back end, front end, full stack, database programming? You know, they ask all these meticulous questions, but they never ask the question, instead of what should I be in, you should be asking the question, what should be in me? You know, you don't want the worst house in the best neighborhood. There's still homeless people on Park Avenue. And you don't want the worst house in the best neighborhood, or you don't want the best house in Kentucky necessarily either. So it's not easy, but most people worry about the neighborhood. That you should be worried about the house. I can spend time teaching when I'm done learning, because then, you know, I know what I'm talking about. But right now, I'm in learning mode. When I taught a lot about pharma and stuff like that, I was past the learning mode. I was in mastery mode. But right now, I'm catching up to a lot of things. So I don't have the time. I know a lot of things in, say, software and other fields, but being able to have the time to teach well does take time. And it is I take it pretty seriously. I want people to have the right information, the best lesson plans. I really focus on delivering high quality educational products. I would say on like theoretical computer science, I'm still pretty noobish. And then it's just about, in CS, it's just about libraries, man. You know, knowing and using every library to its fullest is something that I'm just not really there. You know, I know how to program pretty well, and I know the use cases, gotchas, and best way to organize code and data structures and stuff like that, but there's still a little bit of like core comp-sci knowledge that you have to learn, like, I don't know, formal languages and stuff like that. Analysts don't, I guess analysts do know the stocks inside out, but they don't have any investing judgment, right? So they look at a stock, they're not really sure if the stock will go up or down, as very few people are. It depends on what the portfolio's investing objectives are. Everyone wants the stock to go up, stuff like that. You know, some people want to trade, some people want 10x, some people want a long-term investment. Everything's a little different. Cramer's not controlled by anybody. Cramer's barely controlled by Cramer. If you know the guy, nobody's telling him what to do. There's a little bit of no offense to him. He can be a little out there. He's very bright, brilliant, but he's an intense guy, man. I do think like hedge funds were gonna kill him. Like the way he was doing it, he did the right thing by quitting. Dude is an animal. I still say, like, any hedge fund manager in the world, give me Jim. Only difference maybe is like Renaissance or Buffett, a private Buffett partnership or holding Berkshire. Jim is literally in that kind of territory. He's that smart, and most importantly, he cares that much about being right and making money. So obviously his TV shtick is what it is, but like back in the day, I don't know who else you would rather put money with than Cramer, because he was just like an animal. He would not lose. Like, he had so much. Jim's the kind of guy who would get knocked out in a fight, face bloodied and disfigured. He'd sit up and be like, "Is that all you got?" That's the kind of guy he is. These other guys are kind of prima donnas, you know. I started with BASIC in the late 80s, early 90s. Started with then moved to C. Pascal, actually maybe Pascal before C and Pascal. Then I kind of quit programming. Then I, as an adult, got into JavaScript. Yeah, people who dunk on Cramer don't really understand. They don't get it. I don't know much about hardware. I would love to learn more. It's only so much time in the day. And of course, hardware and software are intimately related. There aren't enough black people in finance. I want more black culture in finance. Every time I meet a black analyst or black PM, I'm always chilling with them. But a lot of the black guys in finance are, I mean, almost all of them. They're not the stereotype. They're like very educated and very, very cool. Yeah, I hired a very nerdy black analyst, and he made our firm like $500 million. He was great. I love dude. Yeah. In fact, one of the reasons I got into this big fight with my board, and I ultimately ended up getting arrested,
was basically because I wanted to pay the guy a huge amount of money, because he deserved it. But they didn't like that idea because they're old and talentless. Sucks to be old and talentless. My favorite entrepreneur is probably Palmer Luckey, honestly. Jealous of how creative and good that man is. I hate that. Why can't I be that creative?
If you'd ask me, would I rather be David Deutsch? Not that I'd want to be anyone else but me. David Deutsch, or I don't know, some really rich guy. Pick your guy, like a money guy. I don't know, Michael Bloomberg or Steve Cohen or someone like that. I'd rather be David Deutsch. But we don't get to choose who we get to become in life, do we? I'm not as smart as him. I think Elon's a much better businessman than a scientist. I don't think he's a bad scientist, but I think he's a much better businessman. And to me, that makes him a money guy. He's more of an engineer than a scientist as well. So he's definitely like a hybrid, but he's still a money guy. I don't think Elon could ever sit there and come up with theorems or books. He's much more interested in engineering. And he also happens to be the richest guy in the world, so that kind of has to make him a money guy in some ways. We get to choose who we become to some extent. I'm not going to become a basketball player, or I wasn't destined to become a basketball player. And a person with 𝗕𝗏𝗡𝗦 21 isn't destined to become a quantum physicist. So we get some choice, but we don't get all the choice.